A fraternity at Penn State is facing criminal charges after a hazing ritual led to the death of a sophomore at the university. Tim Piazza was the student who lost his life during this hazing incident. And now that we have more details that are, coming up during the court proceedings, we kind of get a sense of what this fraternity not only did, but also how they reacted when it was obvious that Piazza was in a lot of danger, okay? So this all started in February. They get together for something that they referred to as the gauntlet. It was the final part, the final hazing before these pledges would be pledged into the fraternity. Piazza and 13 other pledges expected to participate in a hazing ritual known as the gauntlet. Pledges guzzled vodka, shotgun beer, drank from wine bags, and played multiple rounds of beer pong at a series of alcohol stations where they downed 4 to 5 drinks in 2-minute spans. So obviously that's an unsafe thing to do, but over drinking or binge drinking is something that's common among frats. It's just that in this case, it not only ended badly, they refused to get him any type of medical help when it was obvious that he was unconscious. He had fallen down a flight of stairs and they still didn't call the authorities or call an ambulance. The situation just got worse after it was obvious that he was in a lot of trouble. So
look, I went to college. I have a lot of friends who were in fraternities. I wasn't in one. Let's leave out why, but so I'm not a big fan of the hazing. That's in essence why. I think it's ridiculous to you humiliate someone and you get a big rise out of that. I don't want to be humiliated and I don't want to humiliate anyone else. I just think it's just dumb, okay? Now, I still love the guys who are my friends who were in frats, and so I'm not trying to hate on you guys. And I know that, look, we've all done our share of binge drinking and done stupid things when we drink, right? But this story is so disturbing because the things that happened were so monstrous, as you're about to see in a second. And the fact that they didn't do anything about it and treated it as normal leads you to believe that that's the type of stuff that happens, at least at this frat, so frequently that they think, well, this is no big deal. This is par for the course. This is what's supposed to happen. So, now find out the details.
So the details that I'm about to get into are extremely disturbing, and they're based on security footage that the court was able to obtain, that the prosecutors were able to obtain. All right, so he had fallen down a flight of stairs. He was obviously extremely drunk. Later, reports indicated that his alcohol level was 5 times more than the legal limit, okay? 4 young men had dragged his limp form back up the stairs, stripped off his shirt, and placed him on a nearby couch. With his head hanging low and his eyes closed, Piazza appeared unconscious and unmoving, a livid bruise growing on his side.
Let me just pause there for a second. Look, have guys passed out from drinking and they appear unconscious? A billion times, right? So they don't bring him to the hospital at that point. Okay, we understand that, right? Although, in normal circumstances for decent people, that's a little concerning, right? To say the least. But he'd already fallen down a flight of stairs. Dude, somebody bring him to the hospital just in case, right?
Right.
Okay, now you don't expect that somebody's gonna die necessarily from tripping down the stairs when they're drunk, but then he's got a big bruise on his head. Bring him to the hospital, for Christ's sake, bring him to the hospital.
Right, so.
But we're only at the beginning of this story.
It's only the beginning, so let me give you more. A debate quickly broke out about what to do. And by the way, this is the Beta Theta Pi fraternity. Some members sought to wake Piazza by pouring water over his face. Others sat on his legs to prevent him from rolling over or slapped him, fearing that he might lapse into a coma.
If you fear that he might lapse into a coma, bring him to a freaking hospital.
Another young man can be seen in the background of the video falling down a flight of 3 stairs. So this is all happening, right? They're trying to wake this guy up or prevent him from being or falling into a coma. And simultaneously, there's another person who's falling down the stairs. Luckily, no one else died as a result of this hazing ritual. But it's crazy because they're debating whether or not they should take him to the hospital, and they finally decided, or ultimately decided, nah, maybe we can figure out a way to handle this on our own.
Now, I'm just gonna reiterate, sorry, Anna. If you're ever slapping someone in the face in the hopes that they don't fall into a coma, that's when you call 911, okay? Just a pro tip for anybody out there who's handling a person that is incredibly drunk and has a giant bruise on their head from falling down a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. If you're worried about a coma, That's what hospitals are for.
Now, keep in mind that the hazing began at 9 p.m. On a February night, okay? 9 p.m. Now, by 1 a.m., he was twitching and throwing up. Concerned that he might suffocate in his own vomit, a few fraternity members flipped him on his stomach and pinned him to the couch with a backpack filled with heavy textbooks to prevent him from rolling over. In fact, they do this so often with other pledges that they have already coined a term for it. They call it backpacking, okay? Yeah. If you have to do something like that often, there's a problem here, right? Instead of taking them to the doctor or calling an ambulance and ensuring that this person is not gonna die from drinking too much, you decide to strap a heavy backpack on them so they won't be able to roll over.
Like before, if somebody asked me, people have asked me, hey, my son's thinking of joining a frat or my friend is thinking of joining a frat, what do you think? I was neutral, how do I care? I mean, if that's your kind of thing, then do it, because people who do it love it, right? And they become part of this group and they got their silly handshakes, and some of them do all this nonsense stuff. It's not for me, but if it's for you, great, right? Now my advice is gonna be no way. Because whether it's your kid, your brother, or whoever it is, just a friend, like if they got a thing called backpacking, that means that people drink to excess so often there. Like you're rolling dice there. Like I'm not sending my son to or anyone I care about to a situation where they might or might not die from alcohol poisoning, let alone falling down the flight of stairs. Like they've got a thing where like, oh, we don't want you to choke on your own vomit because that happens all the time. So we invented a thing called backpacking, let alone if you don't choke on your own vomit, you might die for alcohol poisoning, let alone the damage that does to you, even if you don't die.
I obviously didn't know him at all. I've never met the guy, and reading these details was just so incredibly disturbing. I can't even imagine what his family is going through right now.
Oh, I know, I thought about his family.
Honestly, it brings me to tears, and it gets worse, Now, before I go further, I don't wanna make it seem as though every member of this fraternity that was there was fighting against calling an ambulance. There was one frat brother named Cordell Davis who demanded that they call 911. And since he was a newer member of this fraternity, they immediately shot him down and told him, hey, know your role, we're not gonna do that, okay?
So, look, these guys are supposed to be fraternity of brothers, right? They'll do anything for each other. I had a frat guy in the college that I went to that said, if my brother at the fraternity told me to shoot my mom, I would. Okay, great. Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Glad they did that kind of brainwashing on you. So but is he really your brother? If you say, hey, you know what? We might get in trouble, so I'd rather endanger his well-being and maybe even his life than for me to get in a little bit of trouble. Doesn't really seem like your brother, does it? Doesn't seem like much of a fraternity then. And yes, this Cordell Davis kid tried to do the right thing, and other fraternity members slammed him against the wall and prevented him from calling the cops, right? Okay, 18 members of the frat have been charged, 18. So there was one guy who did the right thing and many others who didn't.
Right, so when he fell off the couch, and by the way, he fell several times during this entire episode, a group dragged him back up, slammed him down, and smacked his bruised abdomen hard. Oh. At 4 in the morning, he tried to stand from his position curled up on the fraternity house floor, only to fall face first into the hardwood floor. An hour later, he staggered into the lobby, stumbled, and hit his head on an iron railing before collapsing once more. Sometime after 7 a.m., he fell down the basement stairs again. Finally, at 10:48 on the morning of February 3rd, 11 hours after his first fall down the staircase, a fraternity member named Ryan McCann called the ambulance. He died the following morning.
So, in the beginning, after the first fall, somebody records it on Snapchat, haha, funny, right? In the morning, after he's already fallen over and over and over again, this is all on security footage camera, so it's not in dispute. 2 frat members just step over his body. One of them just to get water, the other one laughs and decides he's gonna record him, because this is, again, really, really funny. Remember, he's got the big bruise on his head already, let alone all the other things that have happened to him, right? He died from his spleen.
Ruptured spleen.
Ruptured spleen. Now remember, they slammed his abdomen in an effort to help him, right? And internal bleeding. So he could have been saved 1,000 times that night. If you're his family watching that footage, how is that not the most heartbreaking thing you've ever seen in your entire life, man? For God's sake, if you're his so-called brothers, get him some help. Isn't anybody gonna step up and help that kid? If they had done it after the first fall, he almost certainly would have lived. We don't know that for sure. Maybe the spleen was already gone, etc. But remember, he made it all the way till the next morning, right? Then they called the ambulance fine. But after the first fall, the second fall, the third fall, the fourth fall, somebody get him help.
Yeah, look, I usually shy away from zero tolerance policies and draconian, efforts to stop things. But when it comes to hazing, I just don't see any benefit, okay? I see it as a way of humiliating people, dehumanizing people, putting their lives in jeopardy. Okay, if you want to make an argument about, the importance of frats, which I don't know if I even buy into, fine, okay? I'm not gonna say ban fraternities, but at the same time, I don't understand why hazing in this modern era continues to happen. Right?
Look, the whole point of hazing is to, and it's a psychological trick. It's to break you down so that it robs you of your individualism, and you join a community, which ironically a little communist there, but sorry communists, but and then you become part of that community. Now the reason the military does it and fraternities do it is that so you become more bonded. We know that this is, and by the way, religions do it. A lot of different parts do it. Now, do you really want to lose your individualism? You really want to break down, who you are? I don't want any part of that. I don't want anybody I love to be any part of that. I don't want it if the military does it so that you can kill better. I don't want it if religions do it so that you can believe in a sky god. And I certainly don't want it in this context. So you know what his blood alcohol level was? 0.40, not 0.04, 0.40. That's 5x of the legal allowable limit. Now, I don't want anybody going through this. This is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and what helps me bond with people is kindness, helping one another out. I mean, I can't imagine someone torturing me or dehumanizing me and then me thinking like, you know what? I feel like I'm bonding with this person or this organization or this group of people. This is so devastating, and I feel so bad for his family. And I hope justice is served here, but we need to actually learn lessons from stories like this, not report on them and feel outraged and then there's absolutely no action later. It's not just about this particular fraternity. It's about fraternities in general and how there needs to be policies banning anything even close to this type of hazing.
Yeah, so finally, it's not to say that every single fraternity does this or does this in this kind of extreme, of course not, right? So until frats stop hazing, look, just on a personal level, if anybody asks me, I'm gonna say no. Don't ever let your kids or anyone you love join a frat that does hazing, because I don't want to risk a 0.40 blood level. That's enormously dangerous on its own. I don't want to risk you dying in your own vomit. I don't want my kids to risk any of that. I don't want their personality broken down and join some sort of brotherhood that actually doesn't give a rat's ass about them, okay? And I certainly don't want to take any kind of risk like this. Doesn't mean that this is going to happen in every case. It just means it's a certain level of risk you take in any hazing situation. And my answer to that is hell no. If you're a member of the Young Turks, you not only get the whole 2-hour Young Turks show on demand anytime you want, ad-free, but you also get so many other shows. Old School, you'll love it. Aggressive Progressive for guys who are true progressives. Now also Nerd Alert for gaming and tech. What the Flick for movie reviews. You will love it. Check it out right now at tytnetwork.com/join.